The Gestapo called her the limping lady. They plastered her face across wanted posters in every train station from Paris to Lyon. Klaus Barbie himself made it his personal mission to find her. But here's the thing they didn't know, couldn't know. The woman they were hunting was already crippled, dragging a prosthetic leg through occupied France, and she was still 10 steps ahead of them. Hey, quick thing before we start. If you actually fall asleep to these, hit like or subscribe and comment your city and what time it is. Love seeing everyone from different places. All right, let's head to occupied France, 1941. But first, get comfortable, seriously. Adjust those pillows, pull up that blanket. Because where we're going, you're going to want to be cozy. Your name is Virginia Hall. You're 36 years old, and you're about to become the most dangerous Allied spy in occupied France. Unlike your warm bed right now, you're sleeping on a thin mattress in a Lyon apartment that smells of mildew and fear. The wooden leg strapped to your left thigh, you call her Cuthbert, aches. She always aches, especially after 18-hour days limping through cobblestone streets, meeting resistance contacts, memorizing German troop movements, surviving. You're American. The State Department rejected you for diplomatic service because of that leg. A woman with a disability could never serve her country, they said. So the British recruited you instead, trained you in codes, thus dead drops, silent killing, gave you a cover as a New York Post journalist, and sent you into Vichy France with one instruction: don't die. It's August 1941. You've been in Lyon for 3 days. The city feels like it's holding its breath. The northern zone is fully occupied, German boots on every corner. Down here in Vichy France, there's the pretense of French sovereignty. But everyone knows it's theater. The Nazis pull the strings. The Vichy government dances. You're sitting in a cafe. Cup of ersatz coffee in front of you, made from acorns and regret. You're watching a German officer 2 tables over. He's young, maybe 25, laughing with his companions. Well-fed, clean uniform. He looks like he's on holiday. Like he hasn't noticed he's the occupier. Your contact is late. A baker named Gilbert, so you've been waiting 20 minutes. Each minute feels like an hour. In your purse is a notebook with names, addresses, drop locations. If the Gestapo search you, you're dead. Simple as that. Gilbert arrives, nervous, sweating despite the cool morning. He sits, orders nothing, slides an envelope across the table. Inside are the names of 12 men willing to fight: farmers, shopkeepers, postal workers, none of them trained, all of them angry. This is how it starts: one contact, one envelope, one decision at a time. You're building a network from nothing, from hope and rage, and the desperate belief that occupied France can fight back. You spend the next weeks like this, meeting strangers in cafes, in parks, in back rooms of shops that smell like old vegetables. You memorize faces, voices, habits. You never write anything down where it can be found. Your memory is your filing system. Names, addresses, safe houses, all stored in your head because paper is evidence and evidence is death. The work is exhausting, not the exciting spy movie kind of exhausting. Just the grinding daily terror of knowing any moment could be your last. Any conversation could be with an informant. Any German patrol could decide to check your papers and notice something wrong. Your French is good, fluent. But there's an accent, slight, just enough that if someone listens carefully, if they're suspicious, If they ask the right questions, your cover breaks. So you're always performing, always pretending to be someone you're not, always aware that authenticity equals execution. Cuthbert makes it worse. The wooden leg. Every morning you strap her on, knowing she makes you memorable, distinctive, the opposite of what a spy should be. But you've learned to use it. People underestimate you. They see the limp and think, harmless, vulnerable, someone to dismiss. They're wrong. By October, you're coordinating 3 separate resistance cells. Gilbert's group focuses on intelligence, watching German movements, noting troop numbers, tracking supply convoys. Another group, led by a communist named Andre, handles sabotage, small things at first, cut phone lines, punctured tires, sugar in gas tanks. The third group is escape routes, helping British pilots shot down over France get back to England. You're the hub. Information flows through you. You encode it, transmit it to London via hidden radio. The radio is the most dangerous part. The Germans have detection vans that patrol Lion, triangulating signals. You never transmit from the same location twice. Never stay on air longer than 10 minutes. The van drivers are good, patient, hunting. November brings cold and increased German patrols. Something has changed. You can feel it. The occupation is tightening. More checkpoints, more searches, more arrests. The Gestapo has figured out someone is organizing the chaos. They call her Marie, your resistance code name. They don't know you're American. They don't know about Cuthbert, but they know you're dangerous. Klaus Barbie arrives in Lyon. You hear about him from Gilbert, Gestapo officer, ambitious, ruthless, known for personally torturing prisoners. He's been assigned to find Marie, to break the resistance networks, to make Lyon bleed until someone talks. You keep working. What else can you do? Run? Abandon the people who trust you? The pilots who need escape routes? The resistance fighters who finally believe they can fight back? No, you don't run. You never have. Your safe house changes weekly. You rotate through apartments, never staying long enough to become familiar to neighbors. Each location is carefully chosen, multiple exits, view of the street, landlords who don't ask questions. You sleep in your clothes. Your go bag is always packed. Shoes by the bed. Cuthbert within arm's reach. December 1941. Pearl Harbor. America enters the war. You hear it on the BBC broadcast. The coded message from London confirming what the newspapers say. You're crying and you're not sure why. Relief, maybe. Your country is finally in this fight. Or maybe fear. Because now you're not just a British agent. You're an American in occupied territory. If caught, the consequences shift, become worse somehow. The arrests intensify. Barbie's Gestapo rounds up dozens. Suspected communists, Jews, anyone who looks at a German officer wrong. The torture chambers in Lyon run night shifts. You hear the stories from survivors, or from people who knew the ones who didn't survive. Electric shocks, waterboarding, beatings that last hours, bodies thrown in the Rhone. Your network is fracturing. 2 of Gilbert's men are arrested. They don't know much. You compartmentalize everything, but they know enough to give Barbie threads to pull. You shut down operations for a week. Go silent. Wait. When you restart, you've changed everything. New meeting places, new signals, new courier routes. It's exhausting. Mentally, physically. You're losing weight. Haven't had a proper meal in months. The rations are tight even for people with legitimate papers, and you're buying food on the black market, paying 10 times what it should cost. Sometimes you're so hungry you feel dizzy, but stopping means dying, so you don't stop. By spring 1942, you're legendary. The Gestapo has increased the bounty. Wanted posters show a woman's face, not yours exactly, but close enough. They describe Marie as sophisticated, middle aged, walks with a limp. You change your appearance again. Different hair, different clothes. Start carrying a cane to make the limp look like an old injury rather than a prosthetic. The sabotage is working. Rail lines blow up with such regularity that German supply trains start traveling only during daylight, making them targets for Allied bombers. Communication cables are cut nightly. German officers report constant small scale attacks, nothing that stops the occupation, but enough to make them nervous, enough to divert resources, enough to matter. You coordinate it all. Sometimes you're in a farmhouse kitchen encoding messages. Sometimes you're in a church basement teaching resistance fighters how to place explosives. Sometimes you're at a cafe passing forged papers to a British pilot who needs to look French long enough to reach Spain. Every day is different. Every day is terrifying. Every day you survive is a small miracle. November 1942 changes everything. The Germans abandon all pretense. They occupy Vichy France. The free zone disappears overnight. German troops pour south. The thin veneer of safety evaporates. Lyon goes from semi-neutral to fully occupied in hours. London sends the extraction order. Leave. Now. Your mission is over. You've done more than anyone expected. Staying longer is suicide. You refuse. Send a message back. Network too valuable to abandon. Can still operate if I change tactics. Your handlers think you're insane. They're probably right. But you've spent 18 months building this network. These people trust you, need you. Without coordination, they'll collapse. Without someone connecting them to London, they're just angry farmers with rifles. You can't abandon them. But staying in Lyon is impossible. The Gestapo is going door to door. They have your description down to the color of your hair. Barbie personally oversees sweeps through neighborhoods where you've operated. It's over. You need to leave Lyon. The question is how. You decide to walk out of France, not through checkpoints with forged papers, too risky. Not by train, they're watching the stations. You'll go over the Pyrenees, 50 miles of mountain passes in November, on foot. With Cuthbert, everyone tells you it's impossible. Gilbert says wait for spring. Your London handlers say they'll extract you by boat. Wait for arrangements. But you know waiting means capture. The net is too tight. The Gestapo too close. So you leave. One small pack. Warm clothes. Cuthbert strapped tight. And you walk south. The Pyrenees in November are a nightmare. Not the metaphorical kind. The actual kind. Temperatures below freezing at night. Snow obscuring trails. Wind that cuts through every layer you're wearing. You start with a group. Refugees, resistance fighters, anyone desperate enough to risk the mountains rather than face Barbie. Your guide is a Basque shepherd who knows the smuggling routes. He looks at Cuthbert, looks at you, says nothing, just starts walking, you follow. The first night nearly kills you. The altitude makes breathing hard. The terrain makes walking harder. Rocks and ice and steep inclines that require both legs to navigate. Cuthbert isn't designed for this. She's a wooden peg attached to your thigh with leather straps. No ankle flex, no give. Just a stick trying to do a leg's job. Every step hurts. The straps cut into your flesh. The stump rubs raw inside the socket. Within hours, you're bleeding. You can feel it, warm and wet inside Cuthbert. But stopping means freezing, so you keep walking. The group moves faster than you can. The shepherd is apologetic but firm. They have to maintain pace or they'll be caught by daylight in exposed terrain where German patrols can spot them. Keep up, he says. Not cruel, just honest. You fall behind, not immediately. But by midnight, you're 50 meters back. By 2 a.m., you've lost sight of them. You're alone on a mountain in occupied France with a wooden leg and no idea if you're even going in the right direction. This is where most people would stop, would sit down, would accept they tried. But you're Virginia Hall. You spent 18 months outsmarting the Gestapo. You're not dying on a mountain because your prosthetic doesn't flex. You walk. One step, then another, then another. You don't think about the pain, can't think about it. Pain is just information. Your stump is shredded, some information. Your hands are numb, information. You're so tired you're hallucinating, information. None of it changes what you have to do. Walk, survive, reach Spain. Dawn finds you collapsed in a snowdrift. You don't remember falling, don't remember deciding to rest. You just wake up hours later with frost in your hair and Cuthbert still strapped to your leg, still bleeding, still here. You get up, keep walking. The second night is worse. The cold penetrates everything. You're shivering so hard your teeth crack together. Your feet are numb. Your hands won't close into fists. Cuthbert has rubbed your stump down to exposed tissue. Every step sends jolts of white-hot pain through your thigh. You think about giving up, not seriously, but the thought visits how easy it would be to just lie down, close your eyes, let the cold do its work. You'd be another casualty, another name in some report. People die in mountains all the time. No shame in it. But then you remember Barbie, remember the torture chambers, remember Gilbert and Andre and all the others who trusted you, who are still fighting because you taught them how. They're counting on you to survive, to keep coordinating, to keep connecting them to London. So you walk. Day 3. You're not sure it's day 3. Could be day 4. Time stops working when you're dying. You're navigating by the sun when it breaks through clouds, by the slope of the land, by pure, stubborn refusal to stop. You collapse, actually collapse. Legs give out, face plant in snow, lie there, can't get up. Your body has nothing left. You've burned through fat, muscle, everything. You're running on empty. A Spanish border patrol finds you hours later. They carry you down to a village. A doctor treats your frostbite, your infected stump, your exhaustion. You're alive. Somehow, impossibly, you're alive. Spain detains you. Neutral country. Can't just let enemy agents wander around. You spend weeks in a cell recovering. But you're alive. And Cuthbert is still strapped to your leg. Battered, bloody, but functional. London is stunned when you make contact through the British embassy. They thought you were dead. Instead, you're in Spain, injured but alive, demanding to be sent back into France. No, they say. Your cover is blown. Every Gestapo agent knows your face. Sending you back is murder. You thank them politely, then contact the Americans. The OSS, America's new intelligence agency, has fewer rules, more appetite for risk. They look at your record and see exactly what you want them to see, an operator too valuable to retire. They offer you a new mission, new cover, March 1944. You're going back. The transformation is thorough. Gray hair dye, different posture, An old woman's shuffle that masks Cuthbert's limp. New identity. Marcel Montaigne. Elderly peasant from Brittany. Thick rural clothing. Roughened hands. You practice the accent until it's second nature. When you parachute into central France, even your former contacts wouldn't recognize you. The Gestapo is still looking for Marie. Sophisticated, middle aged, distinctive limp. They're not looking for a shuffling old peasant woman asking about farm work. Your new mission is different. D-Day is coming. Everyone in intelligence knows it. Your job is to prepare central France, organize sabotage, map German positions, train Maquis fighters in guerrilla warfare, turn the countryside into a nightmare for German supply lines. You base yourself in the Haute-Loire region, rural, isolated. The Maquis here are farmers with rifles and courage but no training. You change that. You teach them to think like soldiers, show them how to build explosives from farm supplies, how to choose targets that matter, how to hit and disappear before the Germans respond. You're living rough, sleeping in barns, eating what local families share, never enough. Walking miles every day between farms and resistance meetings. Cuthbert aches constantly, but you've learned to ignore her. She's part of you now, has been since that hunting accident years ago. This is just what life is. The work is different than lion, harder physically, less refined. You're not coordinating from a safe house. You're in the field, in the mud and the rain and the endless walking. Your hands are calloused from farm work. Your back hurts from sleeping on straw. You look like what you're pretending to be, an old peasant woman barely surviving. Perfect. By May 1944, you've organized 3 Maquis battalions, coordinated dozens of sabotage operations, mapped every significant German installation within 100 miles. You carry a radio in a case that looks like a peasant's lunchbox. Find isolated spots to transmit. Report troop movements or request supply drops. Connect your fighters to London. The Gestapo still has your old wanted posters circulating, still offers rewards for Marie, but they're looking for a ghost from 1942. You're right here, right under their noses, an old woman shuffling through fields with a wooden leg hidden under peasant skirts. June 5th, 1944. You're in a barn listening to the BBC. The coded messages come through. The dice are on the table. The arrow will not pass. Activation codes. D-Day is imminent, within hours. You move immediately, farm to farm, passing word to Maquis commanders. By dawn, when American paratroopers land behind Utah Beach, your network across central France is already destroying German infrastructure. Railway lines explode, telephone wires cut, bridges blown, roads blocked. German convoys heading north run into ambush after ambush. Not enough to stop them, enough to delay them. Days become weeks. Reinforcements arrive at Normandy late and depleted. You coordinate everything, moving constantly, never sleeping in the same place twice. German patrols search for the resistance coordinators, search farms, villages, forests. You blend in, help them search sometimes, play the terrified old woman while they look right past you. It's terrifying every single time. One suspicious glance, one thorough search, one informant. That's all it takes. But your disguise holds through June, through July, through August. While Allied forces fight through Normandy and break out into France, you keep your network attacking German supply lines, bleeding them, slowing them, making them pay for every kilometer of retreat. August 25th, 1944. Paris is liberated. The news comes via radio. You're in a farmhouse kitchen. The family you're staying with, they don't know you're American, don't know you're OSS. They cry, dance, open hidden wine, celebrate. You smile, nod, play the role. But inside, you're calculating. The war isn't over. Your mission isn't over. There's still work to do. September brings more liberation. Central France freed. German forces retreating east. Allied tanks rolling through villages that have been occupied for 4 years. You watch it happen. Watch American soldiers who have no idea you've been here for months preparing their way. You maintain your cover even as liberation sweeps through. Can't break it yet. Too risky. German units still operate. Gestapo agents fleeing in civilian clothes. Intelligence work continues until the last enemy soldier crosses the border. September 1944. The liberation of central France is rolling forward like a wave. But you're still Marcel Montaigne, the old peasant woman, still shuffling through villages with Cuthbert hidden under layers of fabric, still working. Because here's what the history books don't tell you. Liberation isn't a clean line on a map. It's messy, chaotic. German units retreating, but still armed. Collaborators trying to blend back into the population. Resistance fighters settling scores. Everyone armed. Everyone angry. Everyone damaged by 4 years of occupation. You're in a farmhouse outside Clermont-Ferrand when the Maquis bring in a prisoner, German soldier, young kid, maybe 19, terrified. They want to execute him. Standard procedure, quick bullet, move on. You intervene, not because you're soft, because he has information. Troop movements, where his unit is retreating, what routes they're using. You question him. Your German is flawless. Learned it before the war when you thought you'd be a diplomat instead of a spy. The kid talks, tells you everything. His unit is moving east through the mountains. 40 men, low on ammunition. Officers have already fled. They're just trying to get home. You radio the information to Allied command. American units intercept them 2 days later. 40 fewer German soldiers fighting the retreat. 40 families who might get their sons back. The math of war is always terrible, always necessary. But here's what staying in character costs. You're still pretending. Even with liberation happening around you, even with Allied soldiers everywhere, because dropping the disguise means becoming visible, becoming a target for any remaining Gestapo agents, any collaborators looking to eliminate witnesses. So you stay old, stay peasant, stay invisible. Your network is still operating, still feeding intelligence to advancing American forces. Which roads are mined, which bridges the Germans booby-trapped, where they're making defensive stands. Your Maquis fighters have become scouts for the U.S. Third Army. Patton's forces sweeping east. You coordinate it all from farmhouses and barns, moving every few days. The radio in your lunchbox, the maps in your head. The whole system you built, still functioning even as the occupation crumbles. October comes cold and clear. The fighting has moved east. Most of central France is secure. German forces pushed back across the Rhine. It's over here. Your mission is technically complete. But you can't just leave. Your Maquis fighters need to be integrated into regular French forces or demobilized. There are collaborators to identify, intelligence to compile, the whole messy aftermath of occupation to manage. You're in a village called Causen when the American intelligence officers show up, looking for someone named Diane. That's your OSS code name. They've been hearing stories. an old peasant woman who coordinated resistance operations, who had direct radio contact with London, who knew things she shouldn't know. They want to meet her, interview her, verify the reports they're getting from Maquis commanders. You make them wait, not because you're being difficult, because you need to be sure, need to verify they're actually OSS, not Gestapo pretending, not collaborators hunting resistance coordinators. You've survived this long by being paranoid. Paranoia works. Finally, you're satisfied. You arrange a meeting, American headquarters, in a requisitioned hotel. You walk in wearing your peasant clothes, shuffling, playing the role one last time. The officers are expecting some village woman with information. Instead, you introduce yourself. I'm Virginia Hall, OSS, I'm Diane. The room goes silent. One of the officers, a major from Virginia, ironically, just stares. You're Virginia Hall? The Virginia Hall? Last time I checked. But you're. He trails off, looking at your peasant clothes, your gray hair, your shuffling walk. Old? Yes, that was the point. They bring you coffee, real coffee. First you've had in years. You sit, they pull out files, start asking questions. Your operations, your network, how you coordinated everything. You answer precisely. Give them the broad strokes, but not everything. Some things stay classified, even from your own side. Some people you worked with are still operating, still at risk. One of the officers, a captain, younger guy, asks about the Gestapo hunt, about Klaus Barbie. He was persistent, you say, dedicated, good at his job, unfortunately. But he never caught you. No, he never caught me. How? He had your description, wanted posters, informants everywhere. How did you stay ahead of him for 2 years? You smile, first genuine smile in months. He was looking for Marie, sophisticated, middle-aged, distinctive limp. He wasn't looking for an old peasant woman shuffling through fields. People see what they expect to see. The officers exchange glances. They're getting it, understanding just how completely you fooled the most notorious Gestapo officer in France. And the wooden leg? The Virginia major asks. The reports said you have a prosthetic. You stand, lift your skirt just enough to show Cuthbert strapped to your thigh, the leather worn, the wood scarred from 2 years of hard use. Cuthbert, you say. She's been with me since 1933. Hunting accident. Cost me my diplomatic career. But she made me perfect for this work. Nobody suspects the crippled woman. They're silent, processing. Then the major says, Ma'am, I need to get this into my report. The scope of what you accomplished, the sabotage operations, the intelligence, the Maquis coordination, command needs to understand. Write whatever you need, you say. But some names stay redacted, some people stay protected. Understood. You spend 3 days being debriefed, giving detailed accounts of your operations, drawing maps of your network, identifying key Maquis leaders who should be recognized. It's exhausting, but necessary. This is how institutional memory gets built, how lessons get preserved. On the 4th day, they bring someone in, OSS officer, older, silver-haired, colonel's insignia. Miss Hall, he says, I'm Colonel David Bruce, European Theater, OSS. I've been reading your reports. Sir, I wanted to meet you personally, to say thank you. What you accomplished here, coordinating resistance operations across central France while evading the Gestapo, it's extraordinary. We're recommending you for the Distinguished Service Cross. The DSC Second highest military decoration, rarely given to intelligence officers, never given to women. That's not necessary, sir. It absolutely is. You saved lives, Allied lives. Your sabotage operations delayed German reinforcements to Normandy by weeks. Your intelligence guided our advance. You trained fighters who are still helping us push east. You don't know what to say. You've never been good at accepting praise. You did the work because it needed doing, that's all. Bruce continues. There's a ceremony planned. General Eisenhower wants to present it personally. No. I'm sorry? No ceremony. No publicity. I'm still operational. There are people in France who know me as Marcel, others who knew me as Marie. If my real identity becomes public, they're at risk. Their families are at risk. Bruce nods slowly. You want to stay in the field? Yes, sir. Where? Wherever you need me. Austria, Germany, wherever there's still work. He studies you for a long moment. The war's almost over, Miss Hall. Germany's collapsing. Japan's on its last legs. Maybe it's time to rest. With respect, sir, I'll rest when the war is over. All the way over. He smiles. Small. Sad. You're exhausted, and I can see it. When did you last take leave? You think about it. 1940, before I came to France. 5 years ago. Yes, sir. Miss Hall, you've earned rest. More than earned it. Take it. But you don't rest. Can't rest. Because there's still work. German forces are retreating, but not defeated. Intelligence gathering continues. Former Gestapo agents are fleeing. Someone needs to track them. War criminals need to be identified before they disappear into civilian populations. You spend the winter of 1944 to 45 working from Paris. OSS headquarters in a requisitioned building on Rue de Grenelle. You're analyzing intelligence from across France, identifying collaboration networks, helping French authorities locate people who betrayed resistance members. It's different work, cleaner, but somehow harder. During the occupation, the lines were clear. Germans, enemy. Resistance, ally. Now it's murky. French people who collaborated, some because they believed, some because they were coerced, some just to survive. How do you judge survival? You can't, but you can identify the worst ones, the ones who helped round up Jews, who tortured prisoners, who profited from occupation. Those names go into reports. French authorities handle the rest. Klaus Barbie is on your list. Top priority. He fled Lyon in September, last seen heading toward Germany. You compile everything you know about him. His methods, his associates, his crimes. The file is thick or damning. He'll hang. One of your OSS colleagues says, reading over your shoulder, when they catch him. If they catch him, Barbie is smart, resourceful. He knows how to disappear. You hope they find him, hope he faces justice, but you're not holding your breath. January 1945. The Ardennes offensive, the Battle of the Bulge, is over. German forces pushed back again. The end is visible now. Months away, maybe. Not years. You get a letter, forwarded through OSS channels, from one of your Maquis commanders, a man named Pierre, who fought with you in the Haute-Loire. The letter is simple, thanking you, telling you his village survived, his family survived, because of the training you provided, the weapons you secured, the coordination that made them effective instead of just brave. You taught us to fight smart, he writes, not just hard. That's why we're still here. You fold the letter carefully, put it in your footlocker with the others, evidence that it mattered, that the work meant something beyond mission reports and intelligence assessments. March 1945. You're called to a meeting. Senior OSS leadership. They're planning post war intelligence operations. What becomes of the OSS when the war ends? How to transition to peacetime intelligence work. You sit in a room full of men, mostly majors and colonels, some generals. You're the only woman, the only field operative with actual wartime resistance experience. They ask your opinion. What comes next? Someone asks. After Germany surrenders? The Soviets, you say without hesitation. The room shifts. Uncomfortable. The Soviets are allies, currently smashing through Eastern Europe toward Berlin. Explain, a general says. They're taking territory. East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia. They're not liberating. They're occupying. Someone needs to watch what they're doing. Build networks before the Iron Curtain comes down. That's pessimistic, Miss Hall. That's realistic, sir. They don't listen? Not really. But you plant the seed. Someone will remember this conversation in a year or two when Stalin's intentions become clear. April 1945. Hitler is dead. Berlin is rubble. Germany surrenders. The war in Europe is over. You're in Paris when you hear. The celebrations are enormous. People flooding the streets, dancing, crying, kissing strangers. 5 years of occupation ending in one moment. You watch from a cafe, drinking real coffee, eating real bread. The woman next to you is sobbing with relief. Her son is coming home. He survived, made it all the way through. You're happy for her, happy for everyone, but you feel distant, disconnected, like you're watching from behind glass. 5 years of constant vigilance, constant fear, constant performance. You can't just turn it off. The Gestapo isn't hunting you anymore. You can walk without looking over your shoulder, sleep without exit plans, exist without 3 layers of identity. It should feel like freedom. It feels like loss, like purpose disappeared overnight. Your OSS handler finds you that evening. They're throwing a party. Command wants you there. Victory celebration. I'll pass. Hall, you earned this. You get to celebrate too. I don't feel like celebrating. He sits down, orders his own coffee, waits. Finally, talk to me. What's going on? I don't know. I should be happy. Everyone's happy. But I just feel empty. That's normal. After what you've been through, what you've done, you can't just switch off. How do you switch off? Time, rest, distance from it all. He pauses. There's talk of sending you stateside, real leave, see your family, sleep in your own bed, remember what normal feels like. I don't want to go stateside. What do you want? Good question. What do you want? You've spent 5 years with singular focus. Defeat Germany, help France, survive. Now what? There's still Japan, you say. No. They need operatives in Asia. I could. No, Hall. You're done. You've given enough. More than enough. It's someone else's turn. He's right. You know he's right. But accepting it is harder than walking across the Pyrenees. June 1945. You're back in the States. First time since 1940. 5 years? America looks strange, unfamiliar. Everyone's happy, prosperous. The war touched them but didn't break them. Not like Europe. Your family is in Baltimore. Your mother is older. Your brother has kids you've never met. They treat you carefully, like you're fragile, made of glass. They ask questions. What was it like? What did you do? You give them the sanitized version. Worked in intelligence. Coordinated with resistance. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would worry them. They don't press. They sense there's more. Things you're not saying. Things you'll never say. Your mother notices your limp, more pronounced now after 5 years of hard use. Cuthbert needs maintenance, replacement straps, maybe a whole new socket. Does it hurt? She asks. Always. I'm used to it. You should rest it. Take time to heal. But some things don't heal. The physical damage to your stump, the scarring from the Pyrenees, the infections, the constant wear, that's permanent. The psychological damage from 5 years of constant threat, that's permanent too. You try to adjust, to be normal, sleep normal hours, eat normal meals, have normal conversations about normal things. It's exhausting, more exhausting than the war. Everyone wants you to be grateful, happy, celebrating victory, and you are, abstractly, but mostly you're numb, going through motions, pretending normalcy like you pretended to be Marcel. August 1945. Japan surrenders. The war is actually over now, completely, finally. You should feel relief. Instead, you feel unmoored, lost. What are you without the mission? Without the work? Just a woman with a wooden leg and a head full of classified information she can never discuss. September 1945. The ceremony happens quietly. A room in the Pentagon. No press. No public announcement. Just you and a handful of OSS officers and General Donovan himself. He pins the Distinguished Service Cross to your uniform, shakes your hand, reads a citation that doesn't mention specifics, can't mention specifics, but acknowledges extraordinary heroism in connection with military operations against an armed enemy. You represented the best of American intelligence, Donovan says. Your courage, your dedication, your success. We're proud of you, Miss Hall. Thank you, sir. Afterward, one of the officers approaches. That was the only DSC awarded to a civilian woman during the war. You know that? You didn't know. Don't particularly care. The medal is nice, but it's not why you did it. The OSS disbands in October, shut down by presidential order. Wartime agency no longer needed in peacetime. Everyone's scrambling. Where do we go? What do we do? Some go back to civilian life, some to military intelligence, some to the State Department. You wait, because you know something most don't. Intelligence doesn't stop when the shooting stops. If anything, it gets more important. Someone will rebuild the OSS, just a matter of time. 1946. You're working for the State Department. Temporary assignment. Analyzing European recovery. It's desk work. Boring. But it pays bills while you wait. The women around you are secretaries. Nice women. Good at their jobs. But they treat you like you're fragile. The war veteran. The injured woman. They offer help. Offer to carry things. Open doors. You're polite. But inside, you're screaming. These same instincts that make people help you, see you as disabled, weak, needing protection, those kept you alive in France. The Gestapo didn't see the limping woman as a threat. Neither do your State Department colleagues. 1947. The Central Intelligence Agency is formed. The OSS rebuilt under a new name. New structure, new mission, counter the Soviets. You apply immediately. Field officer position, you have the experience, the proven track record, the languages, the skills. They turn you down. Not officially. They're too smart for that. They just don't call you back. Don't schedule an interview. Your application disappears into bureaucracy. You follow up, call, write letters, finally get a meeting with a recruiter. Miss Hall, your wartime service was exemplary, truly, but field work is demanding, physical demands. We need officers who can operate in challenging environments. You stare at him. I operated in occupied France for 5 years, evaded the Gestapo, walked across the Pyrenees in winter. What environment is more challenging than that? That was during the war. This is different. Peacetime operations require what? Functioning legs? He has the grace to look uncomfortable. It's not just the prosthetic, it's your age. You're 41. Our field officers are typically younger. I'm more experienced than every one of your young field officers combined. I understand your frustration, but no, you don't understand. You're rejecting the most qualified applicant you'll ever see because she's a woman with a wooden leg. Just be honest about it. Silence. Then, we can offer you an analyst position, research and analysis, good work, important work. I don't want to analyze. I want to operate. I'm sorry, Miss Hall. That's not possible. You take the analyst job because it's the only option, because you need work, because maybe from inside you can change things. You can't. 1948 to 1966, 18 years at the CIA desk analyst. You write reports, assess intelligence from field officers, train new recruits in resistance coordination techniques. Though they never tell the recruits, the techniques come from you. You watch men with less experience get promoted, get field assignments, get recognition. Some of them are good, many aren't. None of them operated in occupied France. None of them fooled the Gestapo for 2 years. None of them walked across mountains on a prosthetic leg. But they're men, younger, able bodied. That's what matters to the bureaucracy. You become bitter, can't help it. You earned field work, earned respect, earned recognition. Instead, you're filing reports in a basement office. The irony is thick. The CIA uses your operations as training case studies. They teach new officers about the Lion Network, your Lion Network, about the Haute Loire coordination, your coordination, about deep cover operations in hostile territory, your operations, but they never name you. The legendary operative whose tactics they teach is anonymous. Could be anyone, could be a man. Your colleagues don't know. The young analysts working next to you have no idea you're the subject of training scenarios 3 floors up. You're just Virginia. The older woman who's been here forever, who limps, who's nice but distant, who never talks about the war. One day in 1963, a young analyst, fresh out of Yale, cocky, makes a joke. Something about how female agents could never handle field work. Too emotional, too physically weak. You're silent. What would you say? That you were the most effective Allied operative in occupied France? That Klaus Barbie spent 2 years hunting you and never came close? That you coordinated sabotage operations that saved thousands of lives? You can't say any of that. It's classified, so you stay silent, swallow the anger, go back to your reports. That night you go home to your small apartment. No husband, no kids, just you and Cuthbert and decades of classified memories you can never share. You pour a drink, bourbon, sit in your armchair, look out the window at Washington, D.C. at night, and you wonder, was it worth it? Not the war. The war was worth it. France needed to be liberated. The Nazis needed to be stopped. Your work mattered, but after? The decades of being overlooked, dismissed, watching lesser men succeed while you're buried in bureaucracy. Was that worth surviving for? You don't know. Some days you think yes, you're alive, you made a difference. That has to count for something. Other days you think about the Pyrenees, about that moment when you could have just stopped, sat down, let the cold take you, would have been easier than this slow death of irrelevance. But you didn't stop then, and you don't stop now. You show up every day, do the work, because that's what you do. That's who you are. 1966, you retire. Mandatory retirement age. You're 60. The CIA throws a small party. Cake in the break room. Generic card everyone signs. Your supervisor makes a speech. Thanks you for your dedication and service. Doesn't mention what you did during the war. Can't mention it. Still classified. Someone gives you a plaque. Standard retirement plaque. Name. Years of service. Nothing else. You smile. Say thank you. Shake hands. And leave with a banker's box of personal items. 20 years reduced to one small box. At home, you open the box. Your DSC in a case at the bottom, tarnished. You haven't looked at it in years. Also, a letter from General Donovan, a photograph of you in France, one of the few that exist, taken by a Maquis fighter in 1944. You're in your peasant disguise, looking old and tired and completely unlike a spy. That's the only evidence you have. One medal no one knows about. One letter. One photograph. That's all that's left of 5 years that changed history. You put the box in a closet, close the door, go back to pretending you're just a retired bureaucrat. The 1970s pass quietly. You live simply. Small apartment, small pension, small life. You volunteer sometimes. Hospital work, nothing dramatic. People who meet you see an old woman with a limp. They're polite, offer help, offer seats. Never imagine you were once the most wanted woman in occupied France. You don't correct them. What would you say? Actually, I'm a legendary spy? They wouldn't believe you. You wouldn't believe you either, looking in the mirror at 70 years old. Cuthbert is ancient now, held together with duct tape and hope. You should get a new prosthetic. Modern ones are better. But Cuthbert was with you through everything. Feels wrong to replace her. 1980. A historian contacts you, writing a book about OSS operations in France. Heard your name from declassified documents. Wants to interview you. You say no initially, then reconsider. The people you protected are dead now. The operations are 40 years past. Maybe it's time. You meet him at a cafe. He's young, earnest, has a tape recorder. Miss Hall, I've been reading about your operations, the resistance coordination, the escape over the Pyrenees, the return to France in disguise. It's incredible. It was necessary, but incredible nonetheless. How did you do it? How did you stay ahead of the Gestapo for so long? You think about this. How do you explain the constant vigilance, the careful planning, the luck, the sheer stubborn refusal to be caught? I was underestimated, you say finally. The Gestapo was looking for someone dangerous, someone formidable. They weren't looking for a middle-aged woman with a wooden leg. That's why they never found me. Your disability was an advantage. Yes, people see what they expect. They expected spies to be young, fit, male. I was none of those things, so I was invisible. He asks more questions. You answer some, redirect others. Even 40 years later, some habits remain. Some information stays classified. Some people stay protected. The book comes out in 1982. It's good, accurate mostly, gets your story out there. Finally, you read it in your apartment. See your operations described in print. See Klaus Barbie's obsession documented. See the analysis of how your work impacted the war. It vindicates you, proves what you always knew. You were good at this. The best, maybe, despite what the CIA thought, despite the dismissals and the desk job and the decades of being overlooked. You were extraordinary, and now people will know. You die 3 months later, July 1982. Heart attacks, quick and painless. You're 76 years old. The obituaries are brief. Former intelligence officer. Worked in France during World War II. Nothing about the scope. Nothing about the impact. The newspapers don't understand what they're reporting. But some people know. The historian who interviewed you, he writes a memorial article, detailed, explaining who you were, what you did, how you changed the war. The CIA issues a statement, brief, acknowledging your service, calling you one of the most distinguished agents in CIA history. After decades of overlooking you, they finally say it publicly. Your family donates your papers to an archive. The DSC, the photographs, the letters from Maquis commanders, evidence for historians. And slowly, over the next decades, your story spreads. Books get written, documentaries get made. Your name becomes synonymous with extraordinary espionage. The CIA names a building after you. The State Department apologizes for rejecting you in the 1930s. Disability rights organizations celebrate you as a pioneer. Young women wanting to join intelligence services cite you as inspiration, proof that barriers can be overcome, that being underestimated is sometimes an advantage. That determination matters more than conforming to expectations. Klaus Barbie is eventually caught, tried, convicted of crimes against humanity, dies in prison in 1991. His obsession with you, documented in captured Gestapo files, becomes part of his trial record, evidence of your effectiveness. He spent 2 years hunting you, never caught you, never came close. That failure haunted him. Good. The French government awards you posthumously the Legion of Honor, their highest decoration, given to you 40 years after you deserved it. Better late than never. Your story becomes legend. But here's what the legend misses: the daily reality, the constant fear, the physical pain of walking on Cuthbert for years, the psychological cost of living under multiple identities. The legend makes you sound superhuman, fearless, invincible. You weren't. You were terrified constantly. You hurt constantly. You doubted constantly. But you kept going anyway. That's the difference. Not that you weren't afraid, that you were afraid and did it anyway. Not that you weren't in pain, that you were in pain and walked anyway. Not that you didn't doubt, that you doubted and trusted yourself anyway. That's the real lesson, not extraordinary courage, just ordinary persistence in extraordinary circumstances. You were a woman with a wooden leg who refused to let anyone else define her limits, who walked into occupied France and organized resistance when everyone said it was impossible, who crossed the Pyrenees when everyone said it couldn't be done, who came back for more when everyone said she'd earned rest, who spent decades being overlooked and dismissed and proved eventually that excellence forces recognition, even if that recognition comes too late, even if you never lived to see it. You proved it. The barriers people put up, gender, disability, age, those weren't real limits. Those were failures of imagination by the people building barriers. You walked through every barrier on a wooden leg with determination and intelligence and the absolute refusal to accept other people's definitions of possible. That's why your story matters, not because you were superhuman, because you were human, flawed, disabled, limited in specific ways, And you succeeded anyway, spectacularly. That's the message, the lesson, the reason your story survives when so many others fade. Anyone can be extraordinary if they're willing to be underestimated, willing to work twice as hard, willing to walk when everyone says they can't. You walked on Cuthbert for years, across occupied France, over the Pyrenees, through dismissal and discrimination and decades of being overlooked. You walked until you couldn't walk anymore, until your body gave out at 76, until your heart stopped in that small apartment in Maryland. But your story keeps walking, keeps inspiring, keeps proving that limits are often imaginary, that the limping lady was actually 10 steps ahead all along. Unlike your warm bed where you're safe now, where you're comfortable and protected, Virginia Hall spent decades uncomfortable, in danger, in pain. But she did it anyway, changed history anyway, saved lives anyway, proved everyone wrong anyway. Close your eyes now. Feel your safety, your warmth, your comfort. She fought for this, for you to have it, for the world to have it. The war ended 79 years ago, but the lesson remains. The example stays powerful. Be underestimated. Work harder. Prove them wrong. Walk when they say you can't. That's what Virginia Hall did. With Cuthbert strapped to her thigh, and determination in her heart, and that absolute refusal to quit. That's her legacy. Not medals, not recognition. The example itself. Walk, keep walking, don't stop. She never did. Sleep well, rest easy. The limping lady made sure you could.